In this how-to video, we will go through the setup of Disaster Recovery as a Service from ReVirt. Please contact us if you don't have those resources assigned today. In this demo, we are using VMware vSphere, but Microsoft Hyper-V is also supported. First, you need to make sure that you have Disaster Recovery as a Service resources assigned. Please go to Backup Infrastructure, click on Service Provider, and select the already established connection. Right-click on it and select Properties. Click Next and Apply. Resources is your backup repositories, so this can be skipped for now. Click Next. This view is an overview of the hardware plan. It is the resources we have allocated to you, guaranteed to be always ready for you in case of a disaster. Click Next. In this field, we need to configure the network extension appliance in accordance to your network. The network extension appliance, or in short, your NEA, will be used during partial site failover to preserve network communication with failed over VMs. We already have it configured, so we click on Edit. For a new installation, click Add and select which host, resource pool, data store, and network it should use locally in your environment. Select IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway, and click OK. If you have several networks that you need to be covered, you can add another one. An appliance will also be deployed automatically at the disaster recovery site, and these two will communicate to each other during a partial failover. In case of a full site failover, the appliance in the disaster recovery site will also act as a firewall and destination NAT device to the virtual machines in the disaster recovery site. Click Apply and wait. Click Next. This is where a summary of the setup is shown. Notice the public IP that we have assigned to you. This will be used in case of a full failover when you connect directly to the disaster recovery site over the internet. Click Finish. If you browse to your hypervisor environment, a small new VM will now appear. This is 100% controlled by the Veeam software, and all actions is also controlled by the Veeam backup and replication software. If you browse to Manage Servers and VMware vSphere, you will now have a new tab called VMware Cloud Host. This is your disaster recovery solution from ReVirt. You can right-click the host to see how many resources from the hardware plan that have been allocated to you. Now we need to start a replication job to get virtual machines to the disaster recovery site. Click on Replication Job and VMware vSphere. Give the replication job a name. Select the virtual machines that need to be replicated and click Next. Now we need to select the cloud host as our destination. Click Choose and select Cloud Host. Select the cloud host and click OK. If you have multiple data stores, you can select that by clicking Choose and then select another data store. The rest of the settings are just like a regular replication job that can be made on-premise. If you have any specific requirements, you can configure them during the next couple of steps. Once you are finished, click Apply. Start the job and wait for the replication to finish. For the purposes of this demo, a replication has already been made and run. The replicated virtual machines will now be visible if you click on the Ready tab under Replicas. If you have several virtual machines replicated to us, we recommend that you design a failover plan. This is done by clicking Failover Plan and selecting Cloud Connect vSphere. Give the failover plan a name and a description. Click Next and select the virtual machines that you want in your failover plan. We are using the failover plan to make a failover with several virtual machines easy and simple, but also to be able to control the boot order and add a delay between each virtual machine to allow enough time for each virtual machine to boot. Select the default gateway that should be used and click Next. In this tab, you can assign public IP addresses and ports to each VM. Add IP and port details and a description. When this is configured, you can, in a case of full disaster, connect to the specified IP and port and communicate with the VMs on the disaster recovery site over the internet. The failover plan will automatically be replicated with military-grade encryption to us and can be accessed through our portal. If your Veeam is down too. In case of a partial disaster, you can use your own Veeam console to failover to the disaster recovery site. To failover, select the virtual machine and click Failover Now. If necessary, you can change the restore point, but in this demo, we will use the latest restore point to failover to. The failover will now start, and once the failover is done, you can connect to the virtual machine, just like you do when it is running in your on-premise environment, as the network extension appliance configured earlier is used for connecting to the disaster recovery site. We do not need to re-IP or change anything. The connection established is a secure VPN connection with high military-grade encryption to make sure that data is not exposed to the public internet. If you refresh your Veeam console by clicking F5, the VM will now be in active state and is running on the disaster recovery site. Once the disaster is handled, click Failback to production, and your virtual machines will now be replicated back to your production environment, and you will have all changes made on the disaster recovery site replicated back to your own environment. Congratulations! You have now configured and tested our disaster recovery as a service.